And then at that time, probably around 2010, there were like some rules in Indonesian clubs saying that you cannot play Indonesian songs because they will think it's like a bit too outdated, you know. So they will put the liner notes in the DJ booth. Like,
Ada?
say do not play Indonesian songs or you will be banned.
Wow. Okay, sup? Aku Adli. Welcome to another episode of Korek Physical, and today is aku ada special guest from kita punya jiran tetangga.
Yeah.
Yes, Aat and Merdi from Diskoria. Welcome to the show. Thank you for wanting to do the show.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So, mana maybe I give a bit of background. Mana yang tak tahu, dia orang ni boleh dikira sebagai apa trailblazer untuk appreciation of khazanah music, especially Indonesian 70s, 80s, 90s music lah, right? So, and they will be holding a concert. I think kali ketiga ya.
Kali ketiga
dengan ini.
Ya, kali ketiga pada Jun 14 dekat ZEP KL with special guest Datuk Sheila Majid.
Yes.
Ya, boleh cerita sikit tak pasal konsert tu?
Kalau konser itu jadi Datuk Sheila Majid itu sebenarnya kita udah long time fan lah.
Iya, dari pertama kali mungkin kita start Diskoria.
Start Diskoria kita always we influenced by her songs juga kan. Jadi we always wanted to collaborate in some way, but we couldn't find the contact or someone who could introduce us gitu directly. So we just hoping, they just keep hoping, and suddenly our friends from Sembangkari Entertainment suddenly they had this idea and they proposed to Datuk Sheila Majid, and then she just said yes. And we were like, whoa, like dream come true.
Pressure.
Yeah, it's like we did not expect, because I did not think that she would notice us, because we're from Indonesia and then she's in Malaysia, and then she's like here, and we're like she's out of our league lah. So we never thought that she would listen to our songs. So when the proposal came from the Sembangkari Entertainment, and then we just like said yes straight away. Because we always wanted to do collaboration with her.
So anything special, apa-apa istimewa for the concert with Datuk Sheila Majid? I mean, is there anything yang macam songs that work on Sheila Majid punya song ke apa ke?
Because this is the very first time jadi because it's her first time to collaborate with DJ, right? So I think she needs to make sure that we're doing it in the right way. So I think we need to make sure. We're still working on the how many songs that we're going to. But yes, we're going to prepare like some edits and remixes for the performance, and we still need to find out which tracks that we're going to play the original version. So
You punya personal favorite?
Me?
Yeah, a song that you wish I want to work on this song.
Embun.
Embun ya?
Yeah.
Nada. Iya.
Betul. Okay.
Embun sih, because I think it's like more Balearic down tempo, but if we put the electronic drums, I think it can fit with the chill out set. Yeah, I think Embun is perfect for me.
Okay. So since ni kali ketiga, what are your expectation?
Expect energi yang dulu kali pertama dan kedua itu datang lagi di konser yang ini nih, apalagi nih spesial sekali kan.
The first one was like really memorable for us. I never did any stage diving in Indonesia and Jakarta, but when we first played in KL, I stage dive.
You lost it.
I lost it.
Dan harusnya kita main 1,5 jam ya?
Yeah, but we play like 2.5 hours.
No, 3.
3 ya? Oh, 3.
Oh, ni yang di Rex KL.
Di Rex, iya.
And then outdoor di
Nusa
Fest.
Yeah, crazy as well. So we always looking forward to play KL again, and this time it's like double the excitement because Sheila Majid.
Okay, out of curiosity kan, macam apa yang macam cetuskan the idea or mission untuk bagi orang appreciate balik music the good songs from the 70s?
I think we started like most of our friends here as record collectors as well, because we started collecting Indonesian records, and then we also back then we also DJing, but we by ourselves. And then at that time, probably around 2010, there were like some rules in Indonesian clubs saying that you cannot play Indonesian songs because they will think it's like a bit too outdated, you know. So they will put the liner notes in the DJ booth. Like,
Yeah.
Ada?
Ada, yeah.
Do not play Indonesian songs or you will be banned.
Wow.
It's kind of like, you know, trigger the because we felt like, I think if we play songs from Krisye or Faris RM with the disco songs, the pop songs with disco beat from Faris RM and Krisye, like Juwita, I think people will respond it. So it's just like out of curiosity and like we just decided to like, hey, let's just do all Indonesian disco DJ set. Suddenly, you know, like some people started to follow us, and then like the numbers grow. And then suddenly we got invited to play here and there, and that's when we decided to let's just have right to write our own material. So and that's it. And now we're like doing this full time. So and we're grateful, but I think that's the reason behind the story.
So the lack of appreciation of music from back then, you rasa sebab apa?
Kekuatan bahasa salah satunya mungkin. Kekuatan bahasa salah satunya yang kita mungkin coba sampaikan di sini kan lagu-lagu upbeat yang berbahasa Indonesia yang memang base-nya pop. Crowd mungkin paham betul artinya apa mungkin dibanding mungkin bahasa Inggris gitu sih. Itu salah satu kekuatannya menurut kita ya.
The other reason mungkin apa ya, nostalgic juga, mungkin waktu aku masih kecil kan.
Atau yang belum dengar justru dengar kayak seperti dengar lagu baru mungkin.
Iya, begitu.
Gitu.
Iya, kalau aku pribadi sih lebih out of nostalgic reason sih, karena when I was younger lah, my dad, my aunts, my aunties all they used to play me these songs from Krisye, from Faris, even from Sheila Majid. So it got stuck in my head. So when you're trying to DJ, and sometimes you need to play what you feel. And then when you have these songs in your head, sometimes you just wanted to play them, and we didn't expect that people would respond to our set. So that's it.
Mengejutkan tak to see how the crowd, I mean after all these years, how whatever yang kalian buat sekarang dah jadi macam, you know, it's a I wouldn't say trend, but people are more receptive and appreciative towards it. Was it surprising to you guys? Ke memang dah jangka?
We would never expect that we will travel to other countries to play Indonesian music. Like even to New York, to Manchester, to London, to Japan, to Seoul, Frankfurt. I mean, like if someone told me like 10 years ago, like, hey, you're going to play in Japan, in Malaysia, in Singapore,
playing Indonesian music.
Like, there's no way, man. Who would listen? Like, I know there's Indonesians abroad, but I mean, they will prefer. I think they will prefer to listen to like Western pop acts, you know. But here we are, so we're still amazed, to be honest with you. Like, yeah.
Discoria was founded 2015. Right?
Yeah, 2015, yes.
Ya, sebelum tu you cakap you DJ separately, so music macam mana? Ke lebih kurang?
House, disco.
I used to play Italo disco, house, Afro,
reggae,
disco edits. You know, like because back then in 2008, all the people like into like this disco edits, like the UK DJs edits. So yeah, I think we play similar.
So when you dig, right, bila you menggali music from the 70s, 80s tu, did you discover more lagi? Oh, ada ini.
Yeah.
Yeah, the journey tu macam mana? Discovery music tu.
It's kind of like jadi addictive gitu. Yeah. Karena kayak every week we would stop by to our favorite record, to Blok M Square,
Jalan Surabaya,
hoping to to be surprised again, you know, like by finding this Indonesian records, like what song what kind of genre that would come out from this record, and so there's like this hunger, you know, like every week.
For me, it's just like maybe escapism, maybe from my work.
Yeah.
I'm not happy with my work before, and it near from Jalan Surabaya. Then I came almost every day after work.
Buy records.
Buy records, buying records.
More records.
Yeah.
Never enough.
to keep me sane, man.
So kalau ada satu rekod yang macam, oh, I want to play this in a club, apa rekod tu?
Aku ada nih. Jadi Indonesian. Aku dulu waktu aku masih belum di Korea, aku masih DJ sendiri. Aku beli ini Trans, Faris RM older band kan, Trans. The song Jawab Nurani. So when I bought the records, I was like really into the song. I played in at this cafe in Kemang. I play like this disco and new disco stuff. And then suddenly I just decided, okay, I'm going to pull this record and I'm just going to play. When I played the disco edits, the Western disco, I mean, people were just like sitting down, talking. And then when I played that Jawab Nurani song, they were like starting to, oh, well, what's this song? I know the vocal, I know. And then they just came to me on the booth and asking questions like, who is this? How come I could identify the voice? Yeah, you should know. This is Faris RM. Oh, so yeah, it's like started the conversation, and then they started dancing. So that's like one of the pivotal moment that I decided, like, yeah, I think Indonesian music can work for the dance floor because that's the proof. So yeah, and then after that, the rest is history. Yeah.
Kalau saya itu dulu suka mengikuti itu kompilasi-kompilasi pagelaran untuk Indonesiakunya Guru Soekarno Putra. Iya. Salah satu lagunya yang attach dengan saya itu judulnya Damai, gitu. Karena kalau menurut saya, Guru ini pintar mengemas lagu yang rasanya sangat Indonesia, tapi juga berasa sangat Barat. Nah, mungkin saya bisa bilang dulu Guru Soekarno Putra itu di era itu bisa membuat anak muda bangga menjadi anak muda Indonesia. Nah, represent lagu disco disco lah mungkin ya kita sebutnya, di beberapa pagelaran itu yang mewakili buat saya tuh lagu Damai gitu.
Itu kayak mix between like Indonesian culture with Indonesian language, but musiknya tuh kayak datang dari Broadway gitu. Jadi disco tapi megah, tapi
grande Love Unlimited gitu. Orchestra, Barry White, seperti itu gitu. Dan saya nggak pernah dengar itu di rilisan lain gitu. Mungkin emang dibuatnya juga proper kan, sangat proper gitu. Orkestrasi dari Jepang dulu gitu.
I'm the type of person who like macam dekat di Malaysia I selalu cakap, oh, how important it is to look back to move forward. As someone yang memang macam kalian yang memang using that as this Korea, I mean, can you elaborate more? Tak macam, okay, how important it is to look back in order for you to move forward and far.
In life in general, we learn like history in school, and like we learn history, and I personally, since I love music, I always try to see what happened in the past with the music culture and music scene. So, and then I also believe this, like music trend is like revolve like
cycle
similar to fashion.
Okay.
I mean, like along the way I can see like the 60s revival, like, because when I grew up, I could see like band like Naive, like they play like the 60s, and then at some point like music from the 60s, 70s and 80s, it can be reappeared in the future, and I think it's part of the evolution as well, because because the trend, it keeps coming back, like the cycle, like the trend cycles, and I think it's also important to know the past,
to know the future.
Yeah, to identify where you would stand at the present, and how you would go in the future. So what we do is just like another way to. It's not about the nostalgic or the flashback, but for us, the main mission is like the Indonesian music. At first, it has to be that because we want the younger audience not to forget the roots. They at least if you can listen to music from other countries, but you don't forget your own country's music. So at least you need to have like one Spotify playlist filled with Indonesian songs. That's our main mission. We just want to spread the love of the Indonesian music to everyone basically. If people from other countries would love to join the movement, feel free. But we don't want, the main mission for us is that we don't want the Indonesian music to be like buried and to be forgotten by for the next generations. I think that's about it. So, and nostalgic is just like another spice or like the vibe that we brought along the way.
Mungkin awal-awal aku Merdi emang bermain apa yang lagu kita suka dan kita pikir cocok untuk di dance floor nih gitu. Mungkin lagunya dulu memang tidak terdengar sama sekali karena biasanya di salah satu piringan hitam Indonesia itu justru lagu yang tidak terkenal justru biasanya wah ini cocok nih, ini cocok nih.
B-sides kan?
B-sides itu cocok sebenarnya gitu. Awalnya seperti itu gitu, awal kita main yang wah ini asik nih buat dimainkan di klub, bla bla bla. Lama-lama di perjalanannya kita berdua mencoba memberi apa ya? Ini seperti memberi tongkat estafet ke generasi selanjutnya sih sebenarnya, gitu.
We're trying to give that songs like those B-side songs like a second chance.
Second chance,
back then it was like not on the top 10 list of the pop chart. Because of the beat, because of the grooviness. We can give them like new life.
Karena kita percaya itu bisa disajikan di
dance floor
gitu.
DJ set,
Iya.
Songs from
sampai pada akhirnya ya kayak seperti Mary bilang tadi itu gitu loh. Untuk generasi muda itu kita coba passing the torch-nya gitu. Gitu.
So daripada from DJing, how did you macam mana boleh terjurus kepada nak buat lagu tu?
I think it's just natural karena because we even though we are DJs, but we play pop songs, right? We kind of like the songs that we play on our DJ sets basically are pop songs, but with like some remixed or like re-edit touch. So we just felt like I think it's about time that we need to spread to taking things further with our mission to spread the love of Indonesian music. I mean, like we want to participate on the scene as well. So so we started to record the songs. I mean, with the help from our friends as well. So it's a collective effort basically.
Was it susah tak? Daripada just main spin and then
And then again, when it comes to pop songs, like there's like this you need to have like melodies that can people can grab straight away, like can stuck in some people's head. You need to create that perfect melody. So the challenge is like also for us, it's like always in the search for that perfect melody. I mean, not always works. Not all of our singles like become the hits, but some of our singles became hits. So we just keep searching for the perfect ones.
Did our best.
We just keep doing it.
But sometimes when you absorb too much, right? Everything got mixed up, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So macam mana dibuang apa? How do you put everything in focus? In terms of like
writer's block. So I think that's the beauty because if we work in music industry, I mean, like we listen to any other genres, just like a little vacation, like sometimes I can just like mumbling around, digging for other music and probably like doing some edits of music that I've never worked before, probably like some techno, some like post-punk and art with dub and reggae. So it's just like a vacation. But and then when we not jammed, the mind's not jammed, we got back together again and just work on our materials. But everything revolves around music basically.
So you're the producer,
Lale Ilmanino.
Lale Ilmanino. So how's the arrangement? Macam kalian bagi apa, mereka buat apa?
So basically we come with the ideas first, and then we already have we have a clear picture in our mind about how the song would sound, and then the arrangement. But we're not like technique or gifted musicians, right? So that's when Lalai Manino took part. They're really good in finding the chords and the melodies, and then we directed the whole.
They translate.
They translate it to
translate your vision lah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the initiative also always come from us. We started we wanted to do this track, but this time it's like a bit. We're not going to do it like in disco style. We're going to do it like down tempo, but something like a track that could reflect the pandemic. So we dig to like songs that like down tempo, and then we came with some references. And then we gave it to them, and then Badai Telah Berlalu.
Yeah, speaking of Badai Telah Berlalu, itu awal sudah 1 tahun lebih ya. Next single?
I mean like there's like single, but we haven't decided if we're going to release, because it's with Lalai Manino as well, but we still haven't got the confirmation that if we're going to release within this year or not, because there's like some administrative issues that we need to settle with the previous master holder of that track. The track is like already done like a couple of years ago, but there's like we still need to work on the administrative issue. And also we still keep working on materials. Hopefully we can release albums. Full album.
Tahun depan 10 tahun. I think it's time already for an album.
Yes. Yeah. Now you mentioned 10 years loh. Next year I just realized. Yeah. So it's a perfect year to start to release something. Monumental release.
10 years to mark. Yeah.
Oh, I just realized. Damn.
Okay, lepas ni kita akan tanya Mehdi dengan Aad, diorang punya first, and then kita korek lah tengok apa cerita-cerita diorang. Okay, Aad.
Yeah.
First kaset yang kamu beli?
Kiss album Destroyer.
Oh, Kiss?
Iya, Kiss album Destroyer.
Kenapa Kiss? Kenapa album tu?
Saya dulu diajak
More like era.
My age.
Sorry, Aad.
Tapi betul. Mungkin Mary dulu Backstreet Boy ya mulainya dulu. Tapi benar. Jadi saya tuh dulu diajak ke rumah tetangga. Anak teman mama saya dulu, dia kasih dengar, apa ini God of Thunder nih, apa ini bandnya? Wih, pakai mask gitu. Ini tema-tema liriknya keren nih gitu. Saya benar-benar minta uang ke Blok M dulu dekat rumah saya dulu, beli kaset itu, album Destroyer. Terus ibu saya, kok lagu setan ini kok keren banget gitu. Itu juga yang apa ya, Gene Simon tuh influencer saya ya buat saya memainkan bass sih sebenarnya. Dia sama Cliff Burton. Iya, betul.
Oke.
Sejak itu saya cari musik lebih keras lagi gitu.
Ended up in disco.
Iya. Iya, seperti itulah.
Mehdi?
Aku nggak cool sih. Aku dapat kaset pertama, my very first kaset tuh ini Enough's Enough, kayak hair metal band.
Oh, Enough's Enough hair metal.
Jadi I was happen to my mom buying groceries, and then there's like this small record store and beside the supermarket, and I just like randomly pick this up because like
the cover
with the hair, and I just bought that, and then but it got me curious. So on the next day I went back to the record store and I bought the Europe album Final Countdown. I became like addicted with buying cassette and finding more music. That was when I was like 10 years old.
10 years old.
Yeah, but hair metal was my first.
Hair metal.
Even though my hair is not.
Serunya mungkin zaman dulu kalau yang masih era saya tuh kaset masih bisa dicoba. Dulu masih bisa dicoba. Jadi tahu yang dibeli itu benar gitu. Tapi sebenarnya ketika ya abis Bob Geldof kan semuanya harus yang original kan gitu. Disegel. Tapi itu seru juga menurut saya. Ketika covernya bagus sekali, ternyata lagunya kok gini lagunya. Tapi itu sebenarnya membuka
journey gitu.
Saya ingat dulu saya beli Sit Down dulu. Album Nola itu tuh. Sangar sekali gambarnya ini. Pas beli, wah ternyata Pantera, Crowbar kan isinya orang-orangnya. itu sih menarik juga sih. Tapi nggak sering salah juga sebenarnya.
Salah juga.
Iya.
Dulu
Apa dulu ya?
tahu lagu Kus Plus yang ini kan, Pelangi kan. Terus
Iya.
Pelangi kan di cover sama Netral kan.
Iya,
Pelangi
iya.
yang kau pelangi. Nah, aku salah dengar liriknya. Aku dengarnya Melati. Oke. Terus aku ke record store, ada kaset Anang. Muka with the cover Anang. Oh, ada lagu Melati nih, aku beli. Aku pikir lagu Melati itu. Gak taunya lagu hair metal lagi. Salah aku tanya sama temanku, lagu itu apa sih yang Melati? Oh, itu Pelangi, Mer, salah.
Tapi dulu sering ya, kita harus nyanyi di toko kaset dulu. Yang lagunya gini, Mas. Wah. Nggak ada. Tapi pas kayak cari, ini ada. Nih, kamu nggak tahu konten kamu tokonya. Harus nyanyi kan dulu.
Oh, nyanyi ya?
Lagunya begini nih.
Seru sih.
Seru sih.
Ya, aku enough kalau aku enough.
So kalau kerja di record store kena tahu lah.
Iya, harus tahu.
Sebab kalau semua datang mau nyanyi.
Iya, udah langsung tahu harus. Iya.
Saya pernah kerja di record store dulu. Iya, pernah dulu. Iya, harus itu. Yang tadinya nggak mau beli jadi beli yang lain.
Iya.
Gimana caranya tuh?
Iya.
Oke. First band. Pernah main band? Mesti pernah main band kan? First band.
Kalau aku mungkin aku dulu punya band cover The Cure. Kemudian bandnya evolve, keyboardisnya keluar, jadi cuma tinggal gitar bass. Bandnya evolve jadi bawain Smashing Pumpkins. Terus dari Smashing Pumpkins evolve lagi with the same personal, kita bikin band Dream Pop, Shoegaze. Tapi at the same era juga, waktu itu aku lagi kuliah, masih college, aku start ini juga, ada indie pop band juga. Terus ya disitulah aku pengalaman pertama writing songs. Terus rilis DIY tapes juga. Terus ya itu ada bandku dulu namanya, yang Dream Pop namanya Sugar Star. Kalau yang indie pop namanya Sweaters. Terus ya I think that's about it ya.
Itu band legend untuk scene indie pop di ini. Seriously.
Band
ini objektif ya.
No.
Tapi itu
yang mana satu?
Unheard.
Cult itu beneran.
Because we released 300 tapes. I think it's sold out eventually. But when we started to release it, nobody buys them. Nobody, just friends, you know. And then we decided to disband, to stop the band because nobody wants to hear our music. But suddenly the tapes circulated by themselves, and suddenly people younger than me hey, I get your tapes. So that's the beauty of music, connected through something that you would never thought before.
Saya salah satu fans dari bandnya, projectnya dia namanya Sugar Star dulu.
Sugar Star.
We haven't met ya.
Belum, tapi saya pernah
jadi dulu jadi judge untuk band selection. Terus band aku yang Dream Pop itu ikut audition.
Nah, yang lain itu kan bawa alat-alatnya banyak, efek. Ini kok sederhana banget ini bawanya. Main apa?
Simple ya. Terus setup simple.
Saya di monitor Smashing. Coba deh. Bagus banget. Saya itu lagi jadi jurinya itu bareng Ricky Seringai dulu berdua.
Dulu ada satu band sama Ricky Seringai di band hardcore namanya Step Forward.
Step Forward. Iya.
Wah, ulang lagi kali apa ya nih? Bagus banget katanya gitu. Nah, sejak itu saya tahu, ini dia. Kalau awal dulu sih sebenarnya SMP kelas 3. Karena dulu sekolah saya emang cuma 2, boleh milihnya SMA. Jadi masuk SMA-nya kalau nggak yang ke kiri ya ke kanan kan. Nah untungnya teman-teman saya SMP ini masuk yang ke salah satu SMA ini, SMA 6. Sana saya bikin ini khusus cover Metallica dulu. Tapi sampai kita semua nggak ada yang suka Black Album. Tapi sebelumnya semua gitu. Ikut dulu kan apa sih namanya dulu festival-festival gitu loh. Ya habis itu lulus SMA, kelas 3 sebenarnya, kelas 3 SMA itu saya bikin sama Andre, ada teman dulu, bikin Step Forward dulu. Kalau saya perempuan, genrenya
kayak Walls of Jericho.
Iya, hardcore. Iya, seperti Walls of Jericho mungkin. Iya, seperti itu. Sempat rilis kaset juga. Ya, gitu.
Step Forward. Nah, saya tahu band dia karena dulu waktu when I was like in a junior high school, aku masih dengerin hardcore gitu kan. Aku beli compilation tape gitu. Aku lihat lah ada Step Forward. Jadi aku karena back then when we bought the tapes, we keep reading the details, right?
All the details.
All the details because we need to know like who's this guy. what's his other bands? Gitu.
Sampai kaos yang dipakai personilnya ini apa tuh ya?
Jadi saya sudah dengar nama Aad karena saya lihat ini basisnya Step Forward. Tapi belum kenal karena Aad sudah way older than me. So, tinggi ya.
Tua maksudnya tua. Tadi maksudnya tua.
So but anyway, itu jadi band dia tuh jauh lebih inilah. Apa kayak di scene tuh dia dulu you can see Step Forward like in every underground events, like not only in the hardcore scene but when there's underground event like with ska bands, with like punk bands, there's Step Forward. Even Jakarta and Bandung scene back then there was like this clash between Jakarta and Bandung bands. Step Forward is like one of those bands who can play Bandung without getting trouble.
Any trouble lah.
So yeah, I mean everyone knows Step Forward, like they're like really hardcore.
Iya, saya keluar 2002. Gitu. Sekarang itu pergantian-pergantian sering sih situ. Dari yang original, foundernya saya sama Andre-nya keluar. Lalu digantikan sama Ricky Seringai. Lalu tiba-tiba masuk Stevie yang di Death Squad. Stevie Hitam di Death Squad gitu. Terus saya keluar 2002, Junas masuk. Ada teman saya gantikan gitu.
Okay, the first time turning point, yalah you dengan your shoegaze, indie pop, dengan hardcore, the turning point tu, first turning point into DJ.
Even though I'm not in the band anymore back then, because like the band like stopped because with school and with work, cliche, but I keep collecting records kan. Aku keep collecting records and then at some point I just decided like, I saw Ian Brown. Ian Brown is like one of my idol. Ian Brown DJing kan. Jadi aku juga pikir saat itu kalau mungkin dengan aku keep collecting these records, mungkin one day aku bisa spin records ini gitu dan bisa jadi DJ juga gitu. Walaupun I haven't thought about mixing, just like playing this collection. As simple as that. And then I began to, like learn, like buy turntable, buy mixers, and learning how to mix songs. And and then I think that's
Masa tu, how old were you?
23.
Oh, 23.
33, yeah. Because when I just finished my degree and I just started to work, I used to work back then at a retail store called Aksara.
Aksara,
Yeah, I used to work there as a music buyer.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got like heavily surrounded by music people back then because of the Aksara Records guys, and then like band members kept just chilling at our store. So yeah, I just got exposed to this kind of new music. I got into Motown, soul, and then slowly I began collecting 80s and 70s disco, and then began to started to mix songs.
Macam daripada hardcore ke disco jauh tu.
Kalau saya sih sebenarnya kecil bukan dipaksa ya, tapi sering mendengarkan genre lain di rumah. Itu karena kebetulan kakak saya dulu penyiar radio, terus DJ juga dulu gitu loh. Jadi kalau sudah weekend tuh biasanya Sabtu Minggu dia udah seharian nge-mix klasik disco gitu. Lama-lama penasaran saya gitu kok. Dan itu nyangkut sih sebenarnya. Beberapa lagu itu tuh
stuck
gitu. Enak ya. Ternyata kan karena kala itu kan dulu kalau mau harus mungkin apalagi saya gitu kalau denger anak-anak hardcore metal tuh ya jangan denger yang lain gitu. Denger itu aja gitu. Tapi kenapa, apa salahnya gitu? Kalau lagu bagus tetap aja bagus buat saya gitu, apapun genrenya gitu. Ya lama-lama saya belajar. Akhirnya sebenarnya ngumpulin dulu sih sebenarnya. Collecting dulu sebenarnya gitu. Dan yang tadi lagu Damai tadi sebenarnya saya tahu dari abang saya dulu gitu. Tuh
Majestic.
Pas denger itu astaga indah banget gitu dulu. Terus saya mulai collecting akhirnya collecting single, nah, ya, akhirnya coba belajar nge-mix jadinya di rumah. Terus datang ke party gitu.
Got exposed to another side of culture.
banget gitu kan. Ini harus gimana di sini gitu loh. Tapi
but keep wanting back more.
Iya, tapi minggu depannya balik lagi gitu. Apa tuh perasaannya tuh? Kan Saya juga nggak ngerti apa itu rasanya. Saya nggak ngerti.
I think it's natural sih evolve-nya kan. Maksudnya there's like a lot of band vocalist atau band who evolves into DJs just because I don't know. I just feel like that because I saw Ian Brown kan. Jadi aku pikir kayak natural aja kalau udah nggak ngeband coba nge-DJ deh gitu. That was like my point of view back then.
Betul juga, more freedom.
Yeah, more freedom.
And then, kalau dalam band you cannot, main apa yang you nak kan.
Because like I said earlier kan, I got addicted to find new music, like new old music maybe. Find new old music that I haven't heard before. Jadi the hunger is still there, tapi the band was not there. So just me and my collection. What should I do with this collection? And then I got married, and then my wife said like, you need to start make money with your stupid collection, otherwise I'm going to throw it away. So I have to think, how to make money by DJing. So
Okay, first time kamu rasa, this Korea is happening, something is, this is big. First time.
Very first gig. Very first gig, we had to play like one records like 3 or 4 times just because people keep requesting it. It was Black Brothers Samandoye. It was like more funk tracks than disco, so we kind of like, really, you guys want to dance to this funk beat? Okay, so we played the song 3 or 4 times, and then at the end of the night when we play Krisya Anak Sekolah, people start to stage dive, and then we just look at each other like, okay, I think this might be working.
Pas kita keluar jalanan macet.
People line up to it's I don't know, it's hard to describe ya. Kayak suddenly the hype was there. Suddenly the hype was already there, and when every song that we play, people respond, and that's when we realized that this shit is actually works.
Dan kita sebenarnya antara senang juga sama masih nggak percaya sebenarnya gitu.
Is it just like one night? One night sensation. If we're going to do this like next month,
masih bisa seperti itu
is it going to be like the same and still the same, even with more crowded, more people coming, and so we already noticed like since the very first Diskoria gig.
Very first.
Very first. Even the name was not Diskoria yet. Still Merdi and Aat. We started to use Diskoria after that gig. We started to use the name.
Okay. That moment when you guys won AMI.
AMI Award.
AMI Award.
Wah.
Goosebumps.
Apa ya? We got nominated 2 times first before we started.
We got
the award. So it was like we didn't expect because the previous 2 years we got nominated, we didn't win. So we just maybe we're not that type of people that not celebrity enough, maybe not the type of celebrity, like because in Indonesia you need to be
someone.
You need to be like that type of
celebrity.
Like we
just did gigs.
We just like we just came with just like black shirt, black. We not in a fashionable way, so I don't think I think we've discussed this. Maybe we're not too fashionable, so we didn't win the award. We're not that fashionable, so
maybe because
we didn't expect. That's why when we got the very first AMI Award with the song Krisya, we couldn't tell you the feeling. I mean, it's like mixed and overwhelmed with emotions. We never thought that we would end up there with those big names. Like Andi Rianto, who would have thought like Diskoria, Andi Rianto, and then the guy who brought the trophy home, Diskoria, Andi Rianto. So it was like, wow.
And then you won again this year. Last year.
Yeah. So it was crazy. Record of the year. Wow. Crazy. Goosebumps. Still got goosebumps.
So technically, kalau fikir balik, it's amazing how like your passion brought to where you are.
I just have I just had this like gut feeling, even though me and Aad, we work on the weekdays, we work 9 to 5. I just feel like on the weekends, I still need to do this music thing just because we need to escape from our routines and just because we love music. So just by keep doing it, who would have thought that we would end up doing this full time? So yeah, but I think it's just like our gut feeling that yeah, we need to do this. Keep on. I mean, like it's pretty tiring, you know. On weekdays you work, and then on weekend you still need to bring turntables, set up the mixers, and then play for 3 hours, 4 hours, and then even 6 hours.
Yeah.
And then you got home and you got paid for like probably how much? Yeah, probably like $100 US dollar, $100 for the both of us. It was like this fun when you play that song and people would respond and people would sing along, and then you will go home smiling, you know, like so we don't care about the money back then.
Yeah.
And then when we keep doing this consistently, and then suddenly it's our full-time job now. So maybe everyone can do it because we're lucky enough. We're lucky enough because we just keep pushing it, even though it's tiring, but just keep pushing it, and music takes you to places that you never imagine.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Lepas ni kita akan biarkan diorang ni record collector mengorek. Kita nak tengok apa yang diorang akan korek.
Oh. I need to.
Dia macam sickness ya.
Yeah.
Sekali dah kena that bug habis.
And then like this, ada ini juga nih. Nih ada curse nih. Aku bilang curse ya. Dulu aku tidak dengar reggae sama sekali. Aku tidak dengar reggae sama sekali dan Aad dengar reggae. Jadi dulu aku suka make fun him kayak like, reggae, it's my thing yo. I'm the shit in reggae gitu. Maksud aku mau make fun aja karena saya saking I know nothing about reggae. But I just, and then when I keep saying that message to Aad, in the end I got addicted to collecting dub records. When we went to New York, all the records that I bought was like dub reggae, dub reggae, dub reggae, dub reggae, and I was like, holy shit, I need to be careful with my mouth, you know, like just joking, just because Aad keep doing this his reggae nights, well, I don't understand a bit, so I just keep telling him, oh yeah man.
What's the most expensive you paid for a record?
I think Badai Pasti Berlalu, the compilation. I mean, the price is still, I paid probably like $450 for me. That's the most expensive. Oh, no, sorry. The most expensive records I bought is my wife's record, Francois Hardy, $500. So
First pressing.
So suddenly, I think when 10 years ago, she suddenly because she noticed that my record buying habit, and she just randomly, okay, for my birthday, can you buy me this? And I thought, oh, Francois Hardy, easy. So I just like, okay, just do it later.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, when approaching the birthday on the day, I started to ask some of my record collector friends, my record stores, they don't have. And then I asked my friend in France, hey, do you know this record? Merdi, that's so rare. Can you get me? Yes, but not cheap. How much? $500. So that's, I think, just like my sin to my wife, hiding my records, buying records behind her back. So that's the most expensive.
$500 US.
Crazy. Francois Hardy. The album, I forgot the album name, but there's a song called Noah sur Blanc. And Francois Hardy with white hair. $500.
Paling mahal?
Saya Reggae Records, Linval Thompson, 7 inch, itu 450 something
dollar.
Dan saya langsung ambil aja gitu, saya bayar, gitu. Saya nitip teman.
Oh.
Tidak deh, beli deh. 7 inch, I Love Marijuana. Saya suka flipnya bagus sekali, dub versionnya. Ya mau. Ya udah transfer sekarang ya.
$450 USD.
Ya udah, gitu. Iya, 7 inch.
Yeah, I mean siapa yang collect record dia know lah.
Yeah. You know the
Gila.
you know the thrill.
Yes. Hopefully isteri-isteri orang yang collect record tak tengok.
Tak
episode
tengok.
ni.
Jangan. Itu kalau aku tuh record ini nih.
Mana tu?
Bush.
16 Stone.
Jadi ini dulu waktu aku junior high.
Junior high.
Waktu junior high, aku punya band kan. Aku punya band. Aku waktu itu bawainnya masih Silverchair. Karena itu was back in 95 kan. Terus I bought this tape, 16 Stone. Terus and then I really like the Everything Zen, Calm Down, Machine Head, and Glycerin. And then I said to my bandmate, like, let's just cover this these songs, right? There were like 4 of us, right? But the 2 members, the drummer and the bass player, they didn't like the songs. So it just left me. I played bass and my singer and guitarist. Just the 2 of us at the studio. I switched to guitar, and then my singer, he played drums, and then we just keep rehearsing these 5 songs like until we dropped. We like almost passed out, like, because we just really love this album. So this albums like brings back memories to me, like, you know, because my 2 other band members didn't want, that didn't stop me and my friend to keep playing the songs.
Ada yang menarik perhatian?
Sebenarnya kalau tadi kalau mau bicara seperti tadi si band ini, tapi bukan album yang ini.
Oke, album yang mana tuh?
Warnanya rada biru. Saya lupa.
Oke. Kailisa. Kenapa Kailisa?
Saya suka band ini dulu. Terus mereka main di Rossi dulu. Main. Saya bawa lah piringan hitam saya ini mau tanda tangan kan. Wah, akhirnya tanda tangan. Bisa tanda tangan. Main lagi dia. Pelatnya patah. Kena orang, tapi patahnya di kepala saya gitu.
Oh,
kena orang. Ya udah saya buang isinya. Gitu. Saya cuma ada covernya sama tanda tangan udah. Iya.
Yang ini?
Waduh.
Ini yang
Legenda.
Ini the latest one ya, bukan ya?
Ini where she covers rearrange P. Ramlee song. I think ini baru rilis kan?
Iya, ini 2024. Last weekend ya. Oh, yang bunyi gitar tuh kan dari album yang lama kan?
Ya,
bunyi
semua ya daripada kan? album yang itulah.
Yang lama, iya. Aku ada CD-nya tuh kalau nggak salah yang track ini. Kalau Adli suka Vanity Records nggak dari Jepang? Vanity ya, suka juga koleksi. Apa itu kayak post punk yang
boleh
ya.
I'm at the age where I listen to almost everything.
Oke.
Yeah. It's because when you were young you listen to one genre.
Yeah.
But as you grow, this is good. This is good. Like how you from tak suka reggae into reggae lah.
Reggae.
But I think now the trend now is city pop lah.
Iya, city pop ya. Dan aku lihat dengan main ketika when Discoria plays like those 80s Indonesian pop jazz, probably like stuff from Ermi Kulit, itu similar sama city pop sound wise. Jadi di Jakarta, di Indonesia jadi banyak selector DJ tuh yang sambil main lagu Indonesian 80s tapi di mix sama Maria Takeuchi gitu Japanese city pop juga karena soundnya similar gitu.
And then I think kalau kat Japan sekarang shoegaze is big tau.
Oh iya.
But shoegaze mainly one man band.
Oh iya kayak bedroom.
But
shoegaze ya.
Last year all the best shoegaze records mainly from Japan.
Mereka pasti crazy tuh untuk ininya tuh apa efeknya loner gitu di kamar. Wah pasti emosional banget itu.
Two of the trends lah I notice. But you dengar Billie Eilish? So now I'm listening to that more to pop lah. Because to me, music right, metal ke apa ke right, kalau you remove everything, the melody is actually pop.
My Bloody Valentine sebenarnya if you put it like into minimal, you can still hear the vocal is like pop, right?
Yes.
Jadi kan when other bands cover My Bloody jadi kayak lagu misalkan When You Sleep di cover sama Shine a Knife, tapi masih pop sensibility-nya masih di situ kan. Walaupun My Bloody bikinnya dengan yang noise layer of gitar gitu kan. Iya. Emang melodi
itu ilmu bila dah tua lah. When you listen a lot, then it's okay.
Selfless. Karena kalau dulu kan masih lebih kayak ego kan. Shoegaze, nothing else.
Yes.
Kalau sekarang tuh kayak I can see similarities between My Bloody Valentine and Billie Eilish now.
Yes.
Just because we are already old and
not old lah, mature.
Not mature. Yeah. Old is a choice, you know. Old.
Apa lagi yang menarik perhatian?
Aduh, banyak sekali sih sebenarnya.
Oh, banyak sekali.
Itu sebenarnya. Stereolab.
Stereolab.
Yang album ini nih.
Album ini?
Umbrella Tomato Ketchup ini.
Itu kan yang Cybele's Reverie?
Iya.
Sama
yang ada di film High Fidelity.
Iya, High Fidelity.
Iya, itu salah satunya. Dulu saya dapatnya, saya digging di rumah orang. Saya dapat sebelah-sebelah. Jadi satu dulu, terus lama lagi, baru yang punya rumah. Ini bukan satunya lagi. Oh iya, akhirnya lengkap. Itu bisa 2 tahun kali.
2 tahun?
Iya, 2 tahun. Akhirnya saya baru lengkap.
Baru lengkap. Ada CD-nya nggak?
Ini juga band bagus banget sih album ini. New Addiction yang
album
ini.
New Addiction.
Iya, yang ini Ritual de lo Habitual ini. Nggak ada yang seperti dia kalau buat saya.
Iya.
Ini logonya bagus banget ya. Fontnya bagus sekali, sensasi. Logo. Sensasi.
Cakap pasal tu, you guys, the second single tu all proceed you bagi Irama Nusantara.
Iya. Untuk ini, itu kita selain itu kita juga ini auction. Karena kita print vinyl cuman berapa waktu itu ya? 10 ya? 11. Itu kita auction juga karena saat itu kan lagi pandemik, jadi Irama Nusantara kan bankrupt kan karena dari government apa namanya supportnya ditarik kan, fundnya ditarik. Jadi kita single digital itunya share kita kasih ke Irama Nusantara sama kita auction vinylnya itu untuk
daplet gitu, bikin daplet gitu.
Dapletnya kita sumbang ke Irama Nusantara. Ya karena mereka teman kita kan, support.
Iya.
Kita support lah.
Teman saya, teman Merdi juga sebenarnya founder-foundernya. Mungkin kamu pernah dengar David Arigan atau Alvin Yunata.
Sebab apa yang mereka what are they doing? I think it's very
noble, man.
To archive.
Mungkin sekarang belum terasa, tapi 10-20 tahun lagi menurut saya sih anak muda Indonesia akan berterima kasih atas adanya yayasan itu. Jadi kita jangan sampai stop nih, jangan sampai stop nih, gitu loh.
Penting sih.
Sekarang udah mulai jadi referensi kalau digging juga itu kan, karena beberapa udah mulai banyak kan. Ini apa ya? Kalau dulu kan harus cobain atau sekarang udah bisa nih, lumayan nih. Oh gitu.
Sebab I jumpa dia orang because they were in Ipoh. They had a convention. So I met them and then jumpa, I can't remember the name.
Gary.
Yes.
Ya kan. Sekarang yang lagi maju Gary soalnya. Gary yang like the frontman-nya lah. Frontman-nya Irama Nusantara sekarang Gary.
And then they did book kan, Deck Plus.
Deck Plus.
Yeah,
itu
the
yang
book.
soal.
Yeah, the book is good.
Kita di Korea juga baru bikin book sama Irama Nusantara.
With flexi disc.
Iya. Senandung di batas mimpi.
Senandung di batas mimpi 100 disco songs, right? So all the 100 tu memang in your collection?
Both from both of us. Sama Deva juga actually. Ada Deva juga. Jadi from the three of us. Our collection we select 10 songs, 100 songs, terus
maybe nanti next time, because I think last season when I did the show, I interviewed one person. He collect Malaysian punya 50, 60 stuff. So together from the show, we did a book of 100 Malaysian good music from the 50s, 60s. Nanti mungkin di konsernya I pass you a copy of the book.
Yang bukunya warnanya apa?
Warna pink. Psyche Agogo.
Psyche Agogo. Aku dikasih sama Naza. Ada CD-nya kan?
Aku bawa sama Naza lah.
Oh itu bukumu?
Iya.
Aku ada di rumah itu.
Oh ada? Ya.
Dan several years back sebelum aku dapat buku itu, aku beli buku di Kinokuniya Singapura tentang pop yeye Singapura. Tapi ada Naza bilang referensinya ada mirip juga sama yang di Saikagogo ini. Jadi aku lihat memang jadi ada ininya ya, ada kayak similarities-nya juga gitu sama yang dari Singapura itu. Jadi
dalam Singapura tuh more like history, but this one is more the catalog.
Iya.
The 7 inch.
Aku dikasih sama Naza.
Ya.
Oh, itu bukumu?
Ya, dengan Naza, koleksi Naza. Aku yang menulisnya.
Oh. Aku dikasih waktu di Rex, terus aku dapat bukunya itu.
Dulu saya dengarnya bingung dulu.
Iya.
Iya, apa ini ya nih maksudnya ya? Densi tapi nggak densi. Aneh banget. Apa
punk
ya?
Tapi funky.
Punk tapi funky.
Bingung juga.
Iya nih. Ini album monumental juga ini.
Ya.
Sikat ini nih.
Tapi tak ramai yang dengar tau. Kalau anak-anak muda sekarang, tak ramai yang tahu.
Oh, gitu.
Aku juga gitu dulu kan waktu high school selalu beli kayak used magazines gitu kayak Q, Mojo, tapi yang used yang udah expired. Aku beli, aku baca-baca, wah reviewnya Right, reviewnya Chapter House baru aku cari ke Jalan Surabaya, cari CD-nya, cari gitu. Based on knowledge dari used magazine itu.
Yes. I think that's the best way kok. Maybe for our age, baca. Because the journey, right?
The journey kan, kita jadi penasaran. Oh, di sini di mention ternyata personilnya Right juga jadi personilnya Oasis, gitu. Oh, ada connect dari Right bisa ke Oasis gitu. Kan jadi kayak maksudnya dulu tuh waktu aku high school aku suka banget gara-gara aku ke Singapura beli majalah, aku dapat ini band dari Penang Damn Dirty Apes.
Oh, Damn Dirty Apes.
Iya, wah tuh aku gara-gara beli majalah di Singapura.
Mereka baru perform.
Iya, makanya aku lihat ternyata mereka last week
ya? Orchestra.
Itu juga. Waktu itu aku bahkan belum, I didn't listen to post rock, tapi ketika waktu aku baca interview di majalah Singapura itu, aku jadi cari ininya, dapat MySpace-nya si Damn Dirty Apes. Jadi aku dengerin, wah ini tuh post rock. Jadi aku malah kan my journey towards post rock tuh justru dari band Malaysia, bukan dari band
bukan Mogwai apa semua
bukan dari band-band luar, westerners gitu.
Okey, kita dah tengok Merdi dengan art mengorek apa semua, tapi itulah bila record collector tu most of the stuff dia ada, but we get to hear stories from some of the records yang ada muncul in certain point of their lives lah. Okay, thank you so much Adli for doing this. I wish we had more time so that we boleh cerita lagi panjang. And then see you guys in the concert lah.
See you
June 14.
June 14.
East Korea, Zap KL, June 14. Bersama Datuk Sheila Majid. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ciao.